Hey everyone, I'm Greg Nettle and I serve as president of Stadia Church Planting, where we want to help you develop thriving, growing, multiplying churches for the next generation. Welcome to this episode of the Church Planting Podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest, Mark DeYmaz. Mark is the founding pastor of Mosaic Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, and he's a leading voice in the multiethnic church movement. That's where I've done so much work with Mark. He's an author, speaker, and advocate for diversity, justice, and community transformation. My friend Mark has spent decades equipping leaders to build healthy, multi-ethnic, and economically diverse congregations. Enjoy this episode of the Church Planting Podcast. I'm with my great friend, Mark DeYmaz. Mark, we go a long way back. I remember sitting with you. I think it was an exponential group or something. We were in a cohort together. Anyhow, Mark, welcome to the Church Planting Podcast.
Yeah, Greg, I'm super excited to be with you. And you're right. I think that was with Alan Hirsch and a bunch of others. And I think it was around 2009 or 10. So a good 15 or more years. That's for sure, bro.
It's been good, and it's been fun to watch you, your Mosaic Church, Mosaix Ministry Conference, and gosh, how many books now? I think I've got 7 up on my screen over here right now. I know there's at least that many, probably a lot more than that. But what's your latest book, Mark?
One coming out with NAB Press next March. It's called, hold on a second, I'll get there. It's called, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace, becoming more like Jesus through the prayer of St. Francis. I was raised Catholic. It's the first book I've ever written, not to leaders, but to anyone, so to speak, people that could read it. But it basically gets behind the theology of that famous prayer that's often attributed to St. Francis, but actually it was written by an anonymous writer in the early 1900s. A French writer, actually, but nobody knows the name. But basically, I laid the theology out, some thoughts about the American church, particularly, and then we take that prayer line by line. Greg, you may not know, but I was raised Jesuit Catholic. So until I was 19, I went to Catholic schools, Jesuit schools, altar boy, the whole thing. And the prayer of St. Francis is very formative to me early on. And so basically, I take that prayer and make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Well, but the prayer aspires to this in prayer, but it doesn't tell you how to do that. So try to get down to the how of that prayer. But yeah, make me an instrument of your peace out with NAB Press in March of 26.
Well, I'm going to have you back on to talk about that book when it comes out, because I can't wait to read that, because most of your books that I've read up so far have been about, building a healthy multi-ethnic church, the economics of church and so forth, and all kinds of other things. But I'll be really excited to read that, Mark. Mark, talk to us just a little bit about Mosaic Church. Man, when you were telling me what's going on there right now in your financial model and stuff, you and I were just kind of dialoguing, a couple of weeks ago on a Zoom call. And I said, we got to talk about this. You're getting grants from the city and different, it's crazy. And we're getting ready to jump on this call, and there's somebody using your building. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, well, Greg, as a church planner like you at heart, I started this church in 2001. I left a very wealthy mega church of 5,000 people as a youth pastor and came to the inner city of Little Rock, and very quickly learned that the more people that joined our church, it cost us money. Yeah, and I like to joke that, people in the inner city where we are, they take money out of the plate. They don't put money into the plate, right?
Exactly.
So I quickly realized the economics. We could have a nice little church of 75 or 100 people, pat ourselves on the back, take a little paycheck home. But if we were going to aggressively meet the needs of this under-resourced, underserved community, there was no way tithes and offerings alone would be able to do. Of course, I'm all about tithes and offerings and generosity and biblical stewardship of those funds. Yes. But we had to learn to develop multiple streams of income, not just to survive, but now it turns out to thrive. And there's that phrase recently I came across from, it's actually Nietzsche, but it was Eugene Peterson, 1980, made that phrase popular in the Christian world, a long obedience in the same direction.
Yes.
And so we're now we're at 24 years, batting it out every day, hustling. And yes, in the last several years, that snowball effect has taken place, particularly with some of our funding models. But more important than the sustainability of the finances, it's the missional vitality, the things we're able to do, we've always done, but to scale them.
Hey, give us some ideas. What are some of the things you're doing now?
Well, so it took us 15 years to own our own building, but we purchased a 100,000 square foot former Kmart. We've remodeled now 97,000 square feet of that. Even as I speak, I've got offices being built because we rented our first offices about 4 years ago for $6,000 a month. So in those offices, I got John Brown University. They run their master's in counseling program. They do their community counseling clinic, so it's $5 for a person. We have a Divine Mercy Health Center. That's a partnership with Catholic doctors and nurses who built out a 2,400 square foot primary care facility in here. So you get 6 primary care visits, all your lab draws, mental health, recovery, all for $300 a year. That's the price of a primary care doctor, $300 for the entire year, $25 a month. So we have that going on here. We have our Hope Center, which is a food distribution, largest in the city of Little Rock through the Orchard here, a 5,010 square foot warehouse with all the dry goods. We serve 85% of our zip code out of that program. We have the Hope Center here off our loading dock where we do showers, hot meals, and laundry for the homeless that live and die on or adjacent to our property. If I took you out the camera right now, there's 20 on the backside. And then we also started an event center. So this entire facility also is online at Midtown Event Center and booking events. So all of that's to say, and of course the church, and one of the greatest compliments I've had, Greg, in the last 24 years is a homeless advocate came through the building about 9 months ago. And we were showing him the kitchen that's now built and the showers and the laundry and the food service, food distribution side, the medical clinic, the mental health clinic, etc. And also, I should say, we have a 42,000 square foot, essentially like a Planet Fitness here, that was one of our first renters. So Arkansas owned. And so all of that is happening in this formerly dilapidated, rundown property. And he walked through the building and he said, "Where's the church?" And I said, that, Aaron, is the greatest compliment I've ever had. In fact, in 2016, Mosaic was awarded the Economic Development Award for the entire state of Arkansas, aggregating at that time more than $20 million of investment on this corner from businesses by the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission for the state of Arkansas. So all of that's to say it's all about missional vitality. But again, in the urban center, we realized we were going to have to develop multiple streams of income. And now, as you well know, that's not just in the urban center. Times have changed. Every church, I'd say 94% of churches are going to have to learn to do what we've done, not just, again, to survive, but to thrive. And we're trying to help churches around the country do that.
So first of all, it's all amazing. I want to unpack this, but you were listing like what I would call all these ministries. You know, I'm going, oh my gosh, a medical clinic. If that's not something the church should be doing and would love to do, then what is? You know, a place for the homeless to get clean and wash their clothes. Well, if that's not something the church, so you list all these things and you said, and then there's the church. And I'm thinking, no. That is the church, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's the whole point of it. Okay. So this is kind of crazy, but because I know that there are lots and lots of our listeners and watchers right now going, yes, that's what I want to do. So, Mark, what do they do? I mean, they pick up a book, your book. Is it the Mosaics conference, which we all know that's a great step. And, but what would you suggest to them? How do they get started?
Yeah, of course, all of the above. But really, it's really a mind shift. We're old enough to remember everybody's about paradigm shifts, all back those. I don't think I hear that term anymore. But yes, books, conferences, yes, it's all in that. But very simply, what churches, church planters, in my opinion, need to do is do what we had to do 20 plus years ago and recognize a different structure. So the simplest way to think about it, to your point, Greg, it's all the church. Think about this. It's all sacred. What I'm about to say is all sacred. But this church is organized like an American football team. Think about it. Offense, defense, special teams. And in each of those teams, right, if we have a football team, it's actually a team of teams. There's actually 3 teams on every football team. And each team has its own playbook. Each team has its own coach. We call them coordinators. Each team has individually dedicated players. Tom Brady, for instance, he didn't play defense. He didn't play special team, only an offensive player. They have their own sets of metrics. You don't ask the defense when they come off the field, how many points did you score? And all these teams are playing synergistically at the same time in order to win a game. And we've all been there, right? Imagine, could an offense, if all of your football team had it as an offense, could you win a game? No, of course not. And we've all been there. Sometimes you put 30 points on the board, but defense can't stop the run. Or maybe you have good offense defense, but the field goal kicker misses the kick or the snap goes back. So all of these teams have to be fielded and functioning at a very high level, minimizing mistakes over a set period of time, or you don't win. Now, that's the model. And what I mean by that is, think about it. Most churches just have an offense. Let's call that the spiritual. So if you think about a three-legged stool, let's call, instead of offense, defense, special teams, let's call that spiritual, social, financial. So the spiritual, and again, it's all sacred, but the spiritual leg is the typical church stuff, right? Preaching, teaching, discipleship, children's ministry, visiting people in the hospital when they're sick, etc. Think about those as plays in the spiritual playbook.
Okay.
Who's leading that team? That's your pastoral types. That's your shepherd types, right? People that maybe in terms of degrees, they got an MDiv, if you will, right? They're dedicated pastors and spiritual leaders. That's who's also playing the game. You have a new member that joins your church. She says, I love teaching children about Jesus. You don't send her to defense or special teams. You put her on the offense. The second team, though, we call social. That's where we advocate creating a separate 501c3 nonprofit. So you have your church, which is a nonprofit. You create let's just call it a social justice arm. That's where you're going to aggregate your justice, your compassion, your merciful work. So food distribution, working with the immigrants, at-risk children, all of those things. Think about those as plays in the social playbook, right?
Okay.
And that means you need an executive director type, an MSW type, to use a degree, who is the coach of that team, and the player, same thing. You get somebody that joins your church and they say, man, I just have such a heart for the homeless. Then most pastors go, oh, I'm so glad you're here. We need somebody in our 5-year-old department. You just took your defensive player, put him on the offense. That doesn't work, right? So when you create this umbrella nonprofit, then you can create multiple programs. You don't create multiple nonprofits. You create multiple programs. And that's how you advance your compassion, justice, and mercy, is under that umbrella of your nonprofit. Now, back to the spiritual leg, how does that team generate income? Tithes and offerings, the giving of your members. How does the nonprofit, your social leg, generate income? Well, that's by chasing local, state, federal grants, donations from people outside your church, not only Christians in the community, but other churches. Churches don't typically write checks, as you know, to another church, but they'll write it to your nonprofit because they're not into food distribution. They're not working with the immigrant, but they'll write those checks. They'll send human resources to work in those programs, and you pick that up. And not only Christians, but non-Christians. Non-Christians who have a heart for the immigrant, a heart for the homeless, they get involved. They donate time, they donate money, and all of that helps you scale missional vibrancy, because as you well know, Greg, most churches today, the tithes and offerings, the giving of their members, is just paying the bills. You don't have extra money to engage the community or to do local mission or whatever, because that's all tied up, tithes and offerings down, numbers, etc. So that's your second leg. And the third leg is your special teams leg. We call it the financial leg. And that's where we're practicing actual biblical stewardship. You know, most pastors, in my opinion, and I was the same way. Nobody trained us in this. We didn't go to seminary. I had to learn this on the job. But, you know, we think good stewardship is essentially management. God gave us a building, take care of it, right? Communicate to your people how much, where you're spending the money. Tell them how much you're taking in. Be transparent. Of course, yes. But that's management, actually, because biblical stewardship is, you gave me 5, here's your 5, and I made you 5. You gave me 2, here's your 2, I made you 2. I like to say, Greg, one guy sat on his asset. And that guy was called a wicked, lazy steward. And that essentially is the American church, sitting on billions and billions of dollars of assets being managed to death in the ground. Poor stewardship. It's land that churches own, completely undeveloped. It's buildings that sit empty from Monday to Saturday. It's a church of 65 with $2.5 million in the bank. Nobody's getting saved. The community's not getting engaged, but by golly, they're proud to tell you they have $2.5 million in the bank. Wicked, lazy stewardship. So to finish that, the structural shift is moving away from a single-dimensional game, as if all you have is an offense, to creating a 3-dimensional game, your spiritual side, your social side, your financial, Again, all sacred, all for the sake of the Lord and for the gospel and missional vibrancy. But you get the right coaches, and you want the business people coaching this game. You want the business people playing this game. And so the aggregate then of tithes and offerings, grants and donations, and for-profit business income, renting your facility, starting an event center business, whatever, all the aggregate of those three large buckets of income is not only what helps you to be stable, but in time sustainable. And Greg, recently, we just crossed a big milestone after 10 years. But now our for-profit income equals our mortgage payment. That means not one penny of the money that our people put into a plate on Sunday morning goes to bricks and mortar. And we've leveraged the facilities and our business side to generate the income to pay down the mortgage. And you mentioned grants. In the last 15 months, we got $1.5 million in 2 different grants from the state attorney general to work with opioid at the opioid nexus, as we do. Just in the last, I looked this up the other day, 2.5 years, we've had just under like $3.9 million of grant and gift funding, and only 500,000 of that has come from the people of our church. That's happened because of longevity and staying at it and staying faithful. It's the grace of God, but it's also because of the structure that we built here. And I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but I think we built a 21st century structure, right? In the 20th, hey, tithes and offerings were fine, but not in the 21st. You're going to need multiple streams of income.
So you get this grant, this huge grant to help opioid addicts. Is that what it's doing?
Yeah, it's called to engage there's about, last I checked, Greg, there's about 80 billion with a B dollars spread out over 50 states. It's opioid settlements from places like Walmart, Walgreens, CVS. They overprescribed opioids. And they were sued by state attorney generals, and they have to pay. This money is going to be available, I think, till 2038. It's about $80 billion. And if you have programming, they call it at the opioid nexus. That means you're engaging addicts in a variety of ways, variety of programming, then potentially you could appeal for that grant. The reason you create the nonprofit is because churches, Christian affiliation, religious affiliation, 97%, 98%, they throw them in the trash can. You need that arm for your social justice, compassion, and mercy work to apply for grants like this. And they're out there from $1,000 to our last one was $1 million. We chase all of them.
You know, I'm smiling, Mark, because I'm pushing you down this path because I'm like, wait, there are going to be people saying, but wait, is that something the church should be involved in or church should be doing? And I'm thinking to myself, it seems like something Jesus would be doing.
Exactly. No brainer there, right?
We're meeting people right where they are and right with what they need. Hey, Mark, up on my other screen here, I think it's your website up here, mosaix.info.
Yeah, that's basically Mosaix is another nonprofit. That's what we export. What our understanding, coaching, consulting, conferencing. Yes, that's how we help churches and pastors around the country understand what we've come to understand and help apply it in their local context. So that's mosaix.info. And then you mentioned our national conference. We only do it every 3 years.
Don't leave here yet. I'm gonna get people to this site, mosaix.info. Yes. And the reason I want you to know about this is because it's got a lot of what the resources Mark is talking about: multiethnic church, cultural intelligence, church economics, all kinds of stuff on here. And it's the place where you can get connected. Yes. And to figure things out. Okay, let's talk about that other not-for-profit, the big conference. It's every 3 years, and it's coming up soon.
Yeah, we're honored to have you as one of our plenary speakers this year, Greg, and I sincerely think that that. But yeah, every 3 years, this will be our sixth one going back to 2010. Typically 11 to 1,200 people are there, and they're from all over different denominations and backgrounds, etc. What we've learned over time is that there are many pastors and leaders around the country in their own individual groups, whether it's a denomination or network, and they have this kind of understanding or they have this aspirational idea or whatever, but in their own groups, if you will, they are often the outliers, right? And so, but then when they come to Mosaix, and they told us, it feels like family because you're basically in a room full of people that all think the same, if you will, in the sense, but from different places. They want to advance the gospel, missional vitality, generate income, be culturally intelligent, etc. But again, outliers in those spaces, here they come and they realize, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. and they find a community. And again, it's only 3 years, but a lot of connections, as you know, are made at these conferences. And that's what perpetuates the movement and also individual connections going forward. So,
well, and the beauty of the conference as well is just its multi-ethnicity. It's the premier multi-ethnic conference in the country. And so to come and be part of something that special and get a glimpse of, the Revelation portrait of what the kingdom isn't just going to be like, but in this case, what it is right now is an absolutely beautiful thing. Mark, what are you most excited about right now when it comes to, thinking about church planting, what you're seeing going on in church world? What are you going, man, I wish if people could see this opportunity right now, this is a game changer.
Yeah, I think that obviously leaning into the economics to scale your missional vitality. Again, when we're working on economics, I'm not interested in helping people that are just want to keep taking a paycheck and keep their doors open. No, it's about scaling your missional vitality. And if you apply these principles and the structure, as I mentioned, and you stay at it, then you're going to be able to do a lot more Matthew 5:16. In Matthew 5:16, Jesus didn't say, let them hear your good words. And I feel like so many pastors and churches, it's all about words, but where are the works? He said, let them see your good works. And that's what shines a light on how big our God is, how deep is his love for all of us. Yes, words are there, of course, but there are many ways to speak, and works is one of them, Matthew 5:16. So, but again, we're tied, right? Declining attendance numbers, et cetera, the economy that we're in, 21st century automation that's coming. And all that's to say is that even if pastors want to do good works, they only have so much money. And so I'm excited as this is a movement, Greg. Church economics is a movement. It's a small M movement right now. You and I know what it's like to be at the beginning of movements. We've lived long enough to know and to see something that wasn't, and then it's a little m, and eventually it becomes a capital M. So we're in that little m stage of church economics. But again, for me, it's not about keeping the doors of the church open. It's the opportunity pastors will have to fulfill aspirational hopes of good works, engaging the community, meeting people at the bridge of Christ's humanity in order to someday lead them across the bridge of Christ's divinity. So that's what's exciting to me. And what gets me up every day, so to speak. And secondly, I'll just tell you this. If I could say anything to church planners, I do this all the time. So I'll say, if I'm talking to church planners, two things I want to say. Number one, it is not 2 to 3 years to sustainability. It is 7 to 10 years from survival to stability, and another 7 to 10 from stability to true sustainability. And understand that can give you encouragement, and because you got to play a long game here. We mentioned that phrase Eugene Peterson made famous within the Christian world, long obedience in the same direction. So many people, as you know, business world, politics, church, everybody wants it now within 1 to 3 years. But what I encourage people is you got to be prayerful, patient, and persistent over the long term to get to see that kind of fruit that you want to see, that's not fleeting or passing. You have to find what God, what is that calling, the passion that God's put in your heart, and stay at that thing, prayerful, patient, persistent, over 15, 20 years. That's what's going to take. And so many people, I'm called to plant a church here. And then 3 years later, they're called to do something else. So that frustrates me for them and for the kingdom. Pray, find that in your heart. What is it? Where's the spot on the earth in this season of your life? And stick with a minimum 7 to 10 years. But to really see that snowball roll, it's going to be 15 to 20. And now, Greg, and I know you've been there too, to get to our age and stage of life where you have committed yourself to a single vision and you weathered those first 10 years of mere survival just to get some measure of stability. And then you're getting towards where we are. I'd say we're like 92% after 23 years sustainable. Now that snowball is kicking. I'm so glad. And the wheels could come off. But so many times I felt like the wheels are coming off, my own personal sin, other things. And somehow through the grace of God, a committed wife and family, and a great church, we've just stayed the course. And we're to that point where we are experiencing just so much of the beauty of God and experience. I got to tell you this, Greg, real quick. I was leaving the church last night. And we have, I mentioned this before, but on our property, in the last 4 years, we've had 20 deaths on or adjacent to our property and even in our building. And this is all from addicts and the opioid nexus and the homeless that live and die at adjacent on our property. And they hang out, they congregate, and we allow that, and we have all kinds of programming help for them. But I was leaving last night. There's a group of 7 or 8 of them getting a haircut. They're hanging out in the back. So I pulled up because one of them, he said, give me a trash can so we can keep our place there. So I went in and got the trash can. But right next to them is a 32,000 square foot building I've been chasing for 2.5 years. They wanted $5.5 million. I've got them down to 500,000. Nobody on the planet wants it. I want to turn it into a homeless daycare center, if you will, and expand everything we're doing. I got a big meeting with the city about it coming up. But the point is, I was explaining to them, I said, I want to take your picture right now. Turn your head away if you don't want your face seen. It's not going on social media, but the mayor and the key business people in the city, et cetera, they're going to see this because I want to leverage what I know is happening here every day to show why we need that building and how that'll help the business community, et cetera. So when I'm telling them that, they're looking at the building and they all went up. They're like, that building is yours, Pastor. That's your building. I said, no, it's our building. And I said, well, just be praying. And they said, we're not praying. The one guy was telling this guy named Rick, just got out of prison, African-American guy. He's like, no, I'm not praying about that. That's yours. You need faith. You need to believe. Stop. And they all rallied and they preached to me, Greg. I'm not kidding you. I could cry right now. I got back in my car. I kind of lost faith. 2.5 years I've been chasing this building. And I'm kind of down to a thumbnail left on it, but I know we're supposed to have it. And they encourage me, put courage into me. This group of homeless, white, black, Hispanic, dirty people, you see what I'm saying? But they're like, we know them by name. This is their place. And they put courage into me and they inspired my faith. I got in my car, Greg. I started bawling like a baby, and I thanked God Almighty for the privilege I have to be in this community, to be in this space, and to be both a blessing and be blessed by these people that the world would otherwise look away from. I called my wife. We're both in tears. 24 years to experience this kind of stuff, and I would trade it for the world. It gets me up every day.
Mark DeYmaz, Mosaix Ministry. You know why he's one of my favorite guests on the Church Planting Podcast. Mark, it's an absolute joy for me personally to be your friend and brother and linking arms with you and for Stadia to partner with Mosaix. I hope to see everyone at the Mosaix conference. Mark's new book coming out next year. And Mark, thanks so much for being on the Church Planting Podcast.
Oh, it's an honor, Greg. Thanks so much, bro.
Thanks for listening to the Church Planting Podcast. The Church Planting Podcast is part of the Stadia Podcast Network. To find more great episodes and to see how Stadia can help you start thriving, growing, multiplying churches for the next generation, be sure to check out stadia.org/podcasts.